here today with Ben, who is fortunate owner of a derelict coffee farm here in Mullaway. But there's so much to tell about this farm. It's got heritage here in the buildings. It's got a massive, great plantation with amazing views. So we want to just try and share some of the things that Ben and his partner are going through, Claire, with rejuvenating this farm, getting it back to life, and just their journey, and really focusing down on different parts of the actual coffee process. So from the tree all the way through, obviously, to the cup that we can help on, but there's so many stages there that we want to help, Ben get all this gear rejuvenated, get it running, pick it, process it, and share that kind of side of the coffee industry. So Ben, tell us a little bit about yourself, mate. How'd you end up here today?
So I guess working here in about 2013, 2015, we lived in Mullaway and loved it, fell in love with the place. When this place came on the market, we did everything we could to get our hands on it. We sort of knew it was there was some coffee here. We don't know anything about coffee, but we're keen to jump in and learn what we can and try and get some coffee cups out of it, I guess.
Yeah, awesome. And you've got a farming background at all, or?
I grew up on a small 25-acre macadamia farm, so I guess a little bit, but didn't really know what we were biting off when we got this place. So it's a long journey ahead, that's for sure.
For sure. Well, it's a beautiful property, a couple of cool opportunities here with the main house, another house, and there's an awesome view overlooking the ocean there. So I'm sure there's huge potential and a great place to hang out. So
yeah, we're here in the early days, so
yeah, awesome.
We don't really know what the final picture looks like, but we'll wait and see.
So the farm's been sort of derelict for how
long? So we think, I don't know, we've sort of looked at aerials. We think maybe 10 or 15 years. It sort of really hasn't had much upkeep.
Yep.
And you can sort of tell that once we go have a look at the trees and bits and pieces around. So it's really, up until this point, it's been clearing lantana and moving a lot of the junk that's been lying around. So car bodies and steel and scrap but yeah, now that we know what's sort of on the property, we'll be able to try and fix it up.
Yeah. So there's a little bit of clearing already happened, so it was in a worse state than what you see it is now. But when you say a couple of car bodies, like how many cars, how many boats, how many caravans, mate? I hear there was a fair bit of stuff here.
Yeah, so something like 15 cars, tractors gone to scrap. You know, it's just been
a heap of caravans, heaps of boats still down there.
Yeah, there's 3 or 4 caravans, there's 4 Hobie cats, there's 3 bugs down there, there's still a lot of stuff left to go.
Cool.
But yeah, there's a lot in it.
All right. And size of the actual property is?
So we've got 15 acres. It's hard to tell, probably maybe 10 of it was planted with coffee.
Yep.
And we've lost a lot of that due to probably the lantana and the neglect. So we're left with, I don't know, there'd be 2 dozen rows there or something.
Yep.
And obviously we'd like to try and reinstate some of it, plant up additional fruit trees, maybe put some stock on here, keep the grass down.
Yeah, great. Awesome. So yeah, so obviously you'll see it in the raw right now, and then 3 years time we'll look at this and it'll look amazing. So
hopefully, fingers crossed.
Awesome. Well, let's have a look around. We've got another guy, Dave, with us here today, who's going to, talk about trees and give a bit of info. So that'll be cool too.
Looking forward to it.
Awesome.
So yeah, these aren't all the tyres we found, but it's the large majority.
Still coming out of the forest.
Yep. What's a property that doesn't have tyres, eh?
So we're thinking chicken coop, we're thinking compost area, greenhouse to sort of propagate.
Nice.
Just sitting in there.
I reckon the best chickens to have are your neighbours' chickens. Because then they get excess.
Well, we like.
Well, they give you
the
eggs because
scrap.
there's always excess, you see.
And we like the ability just to throw scraps at them.
Yeah, I throw my scraps over the fence at the neighbours' chickens. It's great. And then we get eggs. It's that piece there, Dave.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm out of my depth other than rebuilding stickers and working it out. Obviously, you got the diesel Jenny at the back there, which is going to fire it up. But you got separated demucilager, pulp conveyor, and pulper. So this is Dave. Dave and I met, about 11, 12 years ago now?
About that.
Yeah, fortunately we're connected by coffee roasting. But Dave's history is, of growing trees on farms. And quick intro about yourself, Dave.
Well, we had
a small plantation up at Dunoon, a bit north of Lismore, where we had about 2,500 trees. So
Per acre, how many would that be?
I think it was about 2 acres.
Okay.
2 to 3 acres.
Yep.
So grew coffee there for about 8.5, 9 years.
Yep.
So learnt all the different steps in the production methods, which was good.
Cool.
And it's all different. It smells different all the way through it. And we used to sell dry parchment
Okay.
at that stage. And it was only when I came down here and got into the roasting side of it that I got that appreciation.
Fantastic.
So
So you're the best authority we have here today about trees and processing, mate. So
use the term loosely.
anyway, you know more than us, so appreciate you being here.
No problems, my pleasure. Used to process large quantities of ripe cherry,
Yep.
generally on larger farms which are machine harvested. And what this device does in effect is it pulps the coffee and then demutilages.
So it takes us all the actual red cherry, the flesh off the outside, leaving you with the, what part is that? I know it's parchment once dried, but what do you call it when it's still...
Oh, it's wet parchment.
Wet parchment, yep.
And the demucilaging process actually washes under high pressure water, I believe, the mucilage off the bean. So what you end up with is wet parchment.
Yep.
And then it's either dried either in a drum dryer.
Yep.
And or dried in the sun.
Like raised beds, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
If what we found out over the years is if once it was demucilaged, if it wasn't sun dried for at least 3 days, the coffee would have an astringency in the cup.
Yep.
So
So essentially it's a washing process, washed coffee rather than...
demucilager.
Yep.
For large quantities, probably tonnes per hour
Yep.
put through.
Okay.
I think I had the whole lot of our place done in a couple of hours, probably 3 tonne of, maybe 5 tonne of cherry that we'd machine harvested and put through a demucilager,
Yep.
pulp a demucilager, and I ended up with wet parchment, which I then took back to my place and sun dried it
Okay.
rather than drum dried.
Okay. So you could basically do this sort of plantation maybe 2 or 3 days, you'd be processing it, getting it out of the way if that's...
Yeah, if you had a machine harvester, but once again, to be viable on that scale, you probably need
Big plantation.
100,000 trees.
For sure. All right.
So do you just pour it in the top? How do you feed this machine?
I think it's conveyor fed into there,
Yeah.
but I have not had a lot to do with it, I must admit.
It's a very heavy and high volume product, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. As I say,
It looks like they just had steps and come up to that landing or popping it in the top there.
I think that's the way it works, but we only had our pulp done twice through a pulp demucilager, and that was many years ago.
Well, mate, I think it's a matter of getting that motor running, turn it on, see what turns. You know, we're going to have to do a bit of Google search, a bit of YouTube on the model.
It's going to be a few years before we have enough coffee to put through this then, by the sound of it.
Oh, I think so, yeah. I mean, it's a bit of a beast, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it's, you know, a bit of grease and some belts and a couple of motors and it'll be running again for sure.
Yeah. Oh,
There you
maybe
go.
when we get it firing again, we'll get you out here and you can
I'll give it a crack.
see how it spins and turns.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. All right. That's a magical view, mate.
It is. It's stunning.
I think
Yeah, we
that's.
stick at that.
I think you paid for the view more than the coffee farm.
We definitely bought the farm for the view and not the coffee.
Yeah.
I can remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's such a good view.
But from the aerials, it looks like there was all coffee here. But when we got here, it was all just lantana.
Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, it still looks like a bit of a tip, but we've actually done a lot here.
I've forgotten this.
The packing shed. Yeah.
That's where Richard used to do his roasting, isn't it?
Yeah. So the roaster's still in there.
So, is it in the process? Like people have the baths, right? That's to check if it's a good or a bad cherry. That's the first process, isn't it? Put in a bath, whatever floats. You wouldn't use. Is that correct? Or
What I used to do is I'd pulp it, I'd pick it, then pulp it,
okay.
then ferment it, and whatever floated in the fermentation tank, that's what I would scoop off and discard.
Okay.
That was the easiest way that I thought of doing it. What we were doing was selectively hand harvesting too, so
Yep.
that was the way that it suited us in our production method.
Probably don't step in the middle of this.
Yeah, mind that.
It's not real solid.
Yeah, it was full of water last time.
Yeah.
It was after you, sir. Age before beauty.
It's going to go at some point.
There you go. Yeah, we had a look at that last time. I've never seen anything like it, and Greg's never seen anything like it. Like, that's crazy. Would you like the 6-shotter? That is 100 mil. So it's basically a percolator where your water goes in the top, lock it in, and then you get your water coming out through there.
Looking
So
at that as well.
yeah, that's a beast. Yeah, we're gonna spin around, or
Yeah, we'll just lean them up against that bed, get them out of the way.
these would be sorting beds, wouldn't they, Dave?
Yeah, probably.
I kind of figured sitting in the middle, or it could be like raised bed to dry on or wash down.
Yeah.
You've got a port down there.
Could be for fermenting maybe, washing and fermenting.
Yeah. What when you ferment it, what do you put in there to eat away all the mucilage and have an effect?
There's an enzyme called pectinase which is used, and that speeds up the fermentation process, which I never used, but in winter it's to start that fermentation process.
Yep.
A lot of the growers used to use it. You can simply add a little bit of warm water and the bean will actually generate some heat. I used to just ferment them in those orange lugs.
Oh, yeah.
We never had huge quantities, but yeah, that was interesting, and it could take 24 to 48 hours to ferment it. And the bean actually, it's got the mucilage around it when it's pulped.
Yep.
And what the fermentation process does is break that mucilage down. And when the bean feels like little gravelly rocks, that's generally towards the end of the fermentation process.
Yeah, right.
And you've got to be careful because you can under ferment it and you can over ferment it. And the over fermented stuff in particular can be reflected in the cup.
Mm.
So it's an important part of the process. And then thoroughly wash it just with fresh, clean, cool water.
Yep.
Without the sun dry it.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys out there now doing really high-end types of coffee, and they're really playing with that fermentation process now, understanding mainly the science behind it, and carbonic macerations and what's other kind of crazy stuff. So yeah, they're really trying to break something down or add something by a process there before they go and dry them.
But yeah, it's an important step in the process, fermentation.
Yeah, this is the
Old roaster.
The roaster, mate.
Yes, it's a different. That's the ones that Lismore cut used to bring in.
Mm. So there's no like cooling fans or anything. It's literally a barbecue with a rolling drum, and when it sits in there, it'll keep cooking for ages. It's just a solid drum that not perforated. Feel totally just contact heat. Yeah. I reckon that will make a beautiful spit roaster. Chuck a leg of lamb on it. I think that'll work really well. Or you could put like a whole chicken and it can just roll around in there.
But not good for roasting coffee.
No, so you get an instant. There's convection and conductive heat when roasting, and that is pure conductive.
Yeah.
Because you've just got a big flat plate. The beans are hitting on it. There's no airflow.
It's like roasting in a frying pan. Pretty
much. People, one of the videos I'm looking at doing, people say, "Oh, put the beans in the oven," and I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that's not going to work at all."
Yeah.
Well, it's only 10 amp in gas.
Yeah, plug it in. It goes.
It goes.
Yeah. Well, it did last time. So if you break it, you buy it.
I'll give you the $5 now. Is that all right?
There you go.
All you need is a match and turn the gas bottle on, mate, and you're ready to go.
Yeah.
All right.
What's the next one?
That one, Dave. What's it called?
Denlab drum pulper, I think.
Denlab drum.
Denlab, they used to call it.
Denlab drum pulpers. There you go. We've worked out that is totally fried.
Yeah, watch yourself there.
Yeah, just small scale pulper for small quantities.
Yep.
But yeah, they're quite a good machine.
They tend to be on a lot of videos when you look at coffee farms.
Yep.
So it must be like the main company that builds them. And
some friends of mine down at Tallaarm have got one, which is they use it.
well, that's interesting.
Small scale pulper.
And that raises and lowers, doesn't it, to be able to change it?
I think you can adjust it. Yeah.
That looks like a manual adjustment.
So this is after you've dried the bean?
No, it's
Dave?
after you picked it.
After you picked it?
Then pulp it.
Yeah.
Then ferment it.
Okay.
Thoroughly wash it and sun dry it.
So this is sort of similar to the big machine, just a smaller version.
Yeah, just a pulper.
Yeah.
So what it does, just separates the bean from the cherry.
Yeah.
It spits the cherry out one way and the bean out. Yeah, one thing that I want to say about, we'll go back to the, when we pick coffee, it smells different. When we pulp it, it's probably exaggerated, that smell, and you get the pulp and the mucilage. When we wash it, the wet parchment smells different again. And then when we dry it, the dry parchment smells different again. And when we hull it, the green bean is distinctively different.
Mm.
And you might have noticed, if ever I see a bag of coffee, I'll pick up a handful of dry parchment and smell it. If it smells clean and fresh, that's a real good indicator. And then also sample just a handful of green bean, dry green bean, and smell it, and it's different again, as I say. But that can be a real good indicator of what that coffee's going to end up like in the cup.
Yeah, okay.
And of course, the bloke called the barista can mess things up too, all along the way.
Any idea on the tree there, Dave? besides calling stuff lantana? No. So they're a bit bronzy when they come out.
No, before. Yeah, I think that's a typica.
So a quick run down the trees, Dave. Do you reckon these are savable or?
Possibly I'd stump them right back to about 300 mil from the ground.
Yep.
And let them go and see what happens, and they'll bounce back like this. But it may take probably 2 to 3 years to actually produce anything.
Yep.
But I'd stump them back with a single stem or 2 stems, say 300-400 mil from the ground, and see what happens to them.
So they're starting to get a bit of new growth now. Maybe not on that. Oh yeah, it's starting to get some new stuff. Do you reckon if they did some quick cut, chop them even a bit short this year and then stump them next year, or just to get some?
I'd stump them now.
Yep.
You know, it's got dieback and all sorts of stuff is happening here.
Yep.
So if that were ground level, say down here, I'd stump them there, and they'll come out again, and they will bounce back. You can't kill them with a stick.
So there you go, guys. Hopefully that gives you a bit of an insight of where this farm's at and what future it holds. Huge potential for these guys to, start growing coffee and see what happens in a couple of years. It sounds like it. Thanks, Dave, for your knowledge.
Pleasure.
It's been great to, give us an idea of some of the gear and what's required. And no doubt there is a lot of effort, and that's something that, we always like to give a bit of respect to those people around the world that grow coffee, because definitely it's a lot of work. So, but we love drinking it, so please get out there, enjoy your farms, enjoy supporting the community, and love on these guys, because anyone who's growing coffee is fantastic. We love them. Thanks very much for watching, everyone, guys. We'll give you the next part when it's all due. Catch you soon.